grade. For math this week, we are going to look at mean, median, mode, and range. Okay. Mean, median, and mode are all called measures of central tendency. So central meaning middle. Okay, so it's when you look at a set of data. Okay, so a set of data is a set of numbers. Okay, so this is called data. All of these numbers, so numbers are collected for many different things, and then they use measures of central tendency in order to predict things or make generalizations. And so, like if a teacher wanted to know how her class was doing on something and gave a test, and in the test, the students got, let's say we had a 75 and a 90 and a 95 and a 100 and an 80 and an 85 and a 95 and a 95. A teacher could take that list of all of the scores that her students got and figure out the average score, which is what the mean is. The mean is the average score. The median score, like who scored right in the middle out of all the scores that there are, and then the mode score, what score was scored the most. And so some of those numbers aren't as important depending on what the data are that you're looking at. So your data set is what's important in determining how useful each thing is. So for a test, the average test score would be important to me as a teacher, but the range would also be really important. So the range, we'll talk about in a minute, but that's the range of scores. That's how far apart the scores were. So like my lowest score is 75 and my highest score is 100. And so my range is 25 points. So that means that my students were within those 25 points. As a teacher, I might want my range to be smaller. So I want my average to be high, I want my mean to be higher, and I want my range to be smaller, because that shows me that everybody's kind of fitting in that area around the average, which is what I would want. The middle score wouldn't matter as much to me, and the mode score wouldn't necessarily matter as much to me. But we're going to talk about what those things are, because when you're dealing with different types of data, those things do matter. It just depends on what the data is. So first is mean. So the mean is computed by adding all the numbers together and then dividing by the number of elements in the data set. So they give you an example here. This is my data, 2, 5, 9, 3, 5, 4, 7. Notice they're not in order, but to find the mean, that doesn't matter. They all get added together, these numbers here, okay? And there are 7 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. So you divide by that, and that gives you the mean, or the average. That's another word for mean. Okay, so they are all added up and divided by how many there are. And that tells you that, okay, so whatever these numbers represent, this is the average, whatever. Maybe it's ages of cousins. So maybe in a family there are 7 cousins, and these are their ages, and so the average age of the cousins is 5. Okay. The next thing is the median. Median is like another word for, think about like a medium-sized drink. You have small, medium, and large. You like my pictures? Okay. Medium's the one in the middle. So median, middle. Okay. So there's some things that are important with this. So we're going to look at those things. So the first thing is that you have to reorder the data set in smallest to largest. That's important. So these numbers from up here were put in order. So here's that same data set, and they were put in order. And notice we have a repeater, but that doesn't matter right now. That was part of the data set, so that matters. Just like, that means there were 2 5-year-old cousins. You wouldn't want to ignore one of them. They're part of this. So that's important. Okay, so with odd, so 7 is an odd number. We have 7 pieces of data, 7 cousins. That's an odd amount. That means there's going to be one cousin in the middle, and that's your median. Dead in the middle. There's 3 here and 3 here and 1 in the middle. Okay, so you put them in order, you find the number in the middle. If you have an even number of elements in your set, like this has 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I put them in order, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 9, so they're reordered. Always do that first, okay? There isn't a number in the middle. So you take the 2 numbers that are in the middle and you figure out what is in the middle of those 2 numbers. So you find the average or the mean. So the median is found by taking the mean of the middle 2 numbers. Okay? So they add 4 and 5 and divide by 2 because they're two pieces of data. You add them together, you divide by 2, and you get 4.5. Some of you will be able to look at that and know that right away. But sometimes they're not as simple. Sometimes they're not, just in between. Sometimes you might have 4 and 6 be your middle numbers. So then you know that the median would be 5. So the median isn't part of the data set necessarily, just like the mean also. It's not necessarily one of the numbers given. So 4.5 isn't listed as an age. But this means that the middle age is 4.5. Okay? So the middle age of the cousins, the median, the middle. Okay? Put them in order, find the one in the middle. If there are 2 in the middle, you find the average of those 2, and that's your median. Okay? Mode. Mode is most. Okay? So the mode for a data set is the element that occurs most often. It is not uncommon for a data set to have more than one mode. This happens when 2 or more elements occur with equal frequency in the data set. A data set with 2 modes is called bimodal. A data set with 3 modes is called trimodal. Because tri is 3, like a tricycle. Bi is 2, like a bicycle. Okay. They can also have no mode, which isn't talked about here, but you could have no mode. So if you have a list of data like this, this has no mode because nothing's repeated. They each just occur one time, and so we call that no mode. Okay, because look at this as 2. So the number that occurs the most often, it doesn't. If they all just show up one time, that there isn't any. That's the most often. Okay. So if I look at this data set, my mode is 5 because there are 2 5s and nothing else shows up twice or more than twice. Okay. In this data set, I have 2 2s and 2 5s. So 2 and 5 are my modes, so it's bimodal. And in this one, it's trimodal because there are 2 2s, 2 5s, and 2 7s. So my modes are 2, 5, and 7. Okay. You could also have, like let's say up here, let's say there were 2 5s, but then there were 2 7s and 3 4s. No, sorry, 4 4s. Look at that. If there were 2 7s and 2 5s and 4 4s, now 4 is the mode. 4 is the one that shows up the most. Okay? So the 5 and the 7 don't matter anymore. So there were multiples of those, but the 4 showed up the most. Okay? So mode means most, shows up the most. If there's a tie, then there's more than one mode, and that's okay. And if they all show up just one time, then there's no mode. Okay. So if you thought the mode was pretty easy to find, the range is even easier. Okay. I think. Maybe not. Maybe they're the same level of easiness. But the range is the difference between the largest value and the smallest value. So when you have them in order, if they're reordered, that makes it easier. If they're not in order and you don't have to do any other work, you can still find it. Find the biggest one and find the smallest one. But most of the time, if you're finding the range, you'll also have been asked to find the median, and you always want to put them in order to find the median. Always. Okay. So here they're in order. We have our largest number and our smallest number, and we just subtract them. And that's the range is 7. Okay, it's just the largest number minus the smallest number. So that means there's an age range of 7 years with these cousins, if that's what we're talking about this data being. Okay, so 4 things. The mean, which is the average. You add them all up and you divide by how many there are. The median, write them in order, find the middle number, or if there are 2 numbers in the middle, find the average of those 2 numbers. The mode is the one that shows up the most. There could be no mode if they all show up once. And there could be more than one mode if several of them show up the most, the same amount of times, the most. Okay. And then our range is the highest value in our set minus the lowest value in our set. And that answer is the range. Okay. And you might wonder why that matters. So maybe with these cousins, that might be important information for like a grandparent to consider when they're maybe planning to do something with their family. The age range of your kids can make a difference in the things that you're able to do. So like if I was this grandparent, I might not want to take my grandkids on a trip to Disneyland yet because even though their age range, they're about 7 years of range in their ages. There's a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and and 4-year-old and some 5-year-olds. There are going to be a lot of kids that are young. The average age that we looked up in the front, the average age is 5. That could be pretty challenging. So things like that are why people use this kind of data. So most grandparents are probably not going to do this kind of math, but that's the idea that they're using in their mind often without maybe thinking about it. I'd like for the kids to be older, for their average age to be older. Maybe take a set of kids that have a smaller range in their ages, things like that. Teachers use this data all the time, and this data is being used all the time right now as scientists are studying COVID and all the things that go along with that. Okay, so your first assignment for this week to go along with this video today is to do 1, 2, 3, and 4 on this page. You can just put them in order to start out with, all right, and that'll make your life easier. So there's space here to do that, but you might need to use another piece of paper to help you with your work. When I'm writing my numbers in order, I cross them off as I do it because I don't want to miss something or do something more than it needs to be. So if you list them like that and cross them off as you're writing them down, okay, put them in order, and then you're finding those 4 pieces of information. These are called statistics. So you're finding these statistics for these 4 sets of data. Use your calculators to find the mean, okay? But make sure you're paying attention. I would do it twice to make sure you get the same answer both times. It's very easy on a calculator to hit buttons wrong, things like that. So if you have access to a calculator that shows you everything you're typing in at once, the ones I gave you will work, but if you make a mistake, you're not going to know because you can't see it. You can't see all the things you've typed in. So just be careful about that, because that's an easy way to make a mistake. Okay, and then for your assignment for tomorrow is finishing this page. And I don't really care if you save it for tomorrow, but it helps to pace your workout. So, because tomorrow you won't have a video. You'll just do those problems. Okay? So, I will give you another video for Wednesday talking about more stuff about mean, median, mode, and range, but it looks a little bit different. All right? Hey, you guys have a good day. Thanks.